Well, I was thinking reference John 17 and my number 1813. Yes, the thesis that trusting in God is the way to go is in a world of uncertainty, of course. I'm not saying you are certain that it will result in a happier life. I think certainly superficially it looks as though it's highly likely to. And of course, I believe it's the case that most people will find that it does indeed bring a happier life. And so they will feel it was valid and right to choose it. But I'm not saying it will necessarily be the answer for everyone. I mean, obviously a situation where you're totally distracted and not able to peacefully remind yourself that God is and loves you and is eternal. You may not have the opportunity to think this. And indeed, when you look around the world, that seems to be the case. For many people are not thinking this. And, well, you may indeed come to the conclusion that they're worse off for it. But it's still the way to go. Because it makes, well, a Pareto sense, is at least some people happier. And I suspect it may be the case it makes all happier. But either way, it's a Pareto improvement to move towards it. So we do. If such thought has occurred to you. Now, it may be the case, and I think it is, could be, that we're in this world because we're of the group that are not trusting God fully. That we have in our being this notion that if I can't prove God exists, then there's no point in following him. Well, that's patently not true. It's a great deal of point because it makes life better to do so. Does it matter whether this is true for all people? No. What matters, probably, from the point of view of you believing and trusting in it, is that you find that life is better by so trusting. Do you see, that's all that's necessary. It's the imperfect answer, in other words, appropriate to an imperfect world. I'd like to say, Marshall, a bit more about that. Be a bit clearer. We're not certain of our solutions, but some solutions present themselves as being more acceptable than others, so we go for it. I'm not saying it's a perfect solution. It might be, but things tend to be a mixture of good and bad. There's still the uncertainty in this world. But it's the way to go in as far as it presents itself as the most likely to be of gain, a benefit. So we choose to trust in God and in heaven, in your God in particular. And as I say, I do mean your God. For by definition, the things that you value are the things that you can love. And to be devoted to your God therefore has to be the personification in your view of what you value. That's most important. And most people seem to be, those that are alienated from God, most of them seem to be alienated because they find fault in their God. Well, that shouldn't have been your God then. Your God should be the personification of what you do value. If, on the other hand, you find your values are not consistent, then you'll move towards a consistency of values and a consistency of the view of your God, therefore. There's a propensity, you see, to move in the right direction simply by your experience of devotion to the God that you have at the minute. If you become dissatisfied with him, then you're changing your values. Certainly throw out the old God, or adjust, rather, your view of him to the new. Thank you, Heavenly Dad. Well, I was in the situation when I started this. I was only about 10, 15 seconds or something into this recording. And in order to introduce it by referencing which recording I was referring to, I lost the point. And I stopped after about, 30 seconds. 14 seconds, I think it may have been actually. And I was just stymied, is it? I'd made the mistake of not coming to the point immediately and saying what I wished to say and then put the reference in afterwards. Because I stumbled over what the reference was, by which time I'd lost the point, what I was going to say. Okay, well, I left it to God. But I could have made life more efficient by a more happier situation if I'd have said to myself, well, he's an all-powerful God, and even if I can't remember what I've just forgotten, he'll turn it to good. It's for a good purpose. He's allowed it because this is the best thing. Perhaps it wasn't appropriate that I'd record on such a topic. Or perhaps I'll come up with a better one because I'm puzzled by what the vacuum is that's left by me not being able to remember it. Do you see? There's a trust in God. And so what happened? Well, I just thought, I'll leave it to God. In fact, I didn't go through this performance of reasoning. I just thought, I'll carry on and perhaps it'll occur to me and perhaps it won't. It's fine. I'll leave it with God. But I will remember to be a bit more direct and to the point next time. Not almost give an introduction first and then you lose the point. And now I've produced this recording and I'm pleased with it. I think I'll just listen to it again. Hang on a minute. Yes, you see, good outcome. Thank you, Heavenly Dad. I should just say, define a Pareto thing, because it's a sort of economic type theory term, and it means a situation that offers at least some people being better off and no one worse off. Or if we're just talking about the individual, a situation that can either make you better off or no gain, but not worse off. Now you see, in a sense, even if I have an unhappy time because I've barked up the wrong tree, Well, I've now learned, haven't I? And I can adjust what I value accordingly. Don't go barking up those trees again. It's a waste of time. In that situation. You see, you're the richer, or you haven't learnt your lesson and you have to go through the lesson again. Okay, well, you're no further forward, but it's Pareto optimal if you're not actually disadvantaged by the situation. Now, of course, if you think life is limited, in other words, you don't believe you have eternal life, and you've wasted some years, for instance, with the wrong partner, say, you married a Satanist by mistake. We all make mistakes, don't we? Yeah, we do. And now you know what to avoid in the future. But if you think there is no future, then of course you're simply the worse off for the experience. But if it's a world of the transitory and you have a world of the eternal afterwards, well, your mistake here can disappear into the past and you carry the lesson learnt by it. The cost approaches zero as it vanishes into the past to any present that you have in the future. Do you see? As you move into the future. But of course, if you think, oh no, life is limited and I've wasted my youth, oh dear, 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 I hate you for it. Oh my goodness. Yeah, well, you're going to wreck your life, aren't you? And you should learn that lesson now. But it's not a good idea to hate them for it. And there was no need. Because when you get into the next life, you realize there is a next life. And supposing there isn't a next life, well, once you're dead, you're dead. It won't worry you anymore, will it? If that is the case. I choose to believe that isn't the case, guys. I choose to believe you have eternal life, like it or not. So you may as well make it abundant life. And every lesson that helps towards that is pure gain in a vast eternity, in a transcendent, wonderful state, heaven. And I do mean heaven, I don't mean in reincarnations in this or some, causal or what's the other one they talk about? The astral state, or anything else. I mean heaven. And for that to last for eternity, well, it's worth any transitory cost. And the whole idea of the love and kindness of, for instance, whoever wrote the scriptures, be it God or man, the whole idea is to reduce the probability, the possibility, the likelihood, the happening of you experiencing any bad state for long at all. Some lessons are difficult. And you do get some pain in life. Is there anyone who hasn't suffered pain in life? I don't think so. I'm sure some have suffered far more than others, and some far less than others. And it's thought and understood that you're likely to have less pain if you live a godly life than if you keep doing the wrong thing and harming yourself. That's highly likely if you think about it, isn't it? So you take care of yourself. Take care of your health. Take care of your loved ones, your near ones, those around you. Rescue even the stranger in great need. And there's a propensity for others to care for you. Of course, some people may be offended because you're going around with this shining aura of glory and light and favour with God. Well, it might be a good idea to avoid such people then, because it doesn't sound as though you're much blessing to them if it makes them so angry. Thank you, Heavenly Dad. Well, when all's said and done, if you find a thing works, you're going to do it. And if you don't, well, you're now that much the clearer that you need to look elsewhere. And that's how we find our way. And if by the grace of God you have much life in which to do this, then you'll find your way rather effectively. And if life is found not to be that long, well, you're trusting that God has it all in hand, is going to be much happier, much better than if you're trusting He hasn't. Either way, you still have to trust. So it's pretty clear. It's a no-brainer. You're going to trust in God and see what happens. And if what happens is good, my goodness, you'll get such encouragement, you'll go faster and faster. See if that's the case. In fact, conversion doesn't seem to be a slow process, or at least there are outstanding times when you make a fantastic leap forward, so much so that it's been termed that you're born again, dramatically of God, and your life turns over amazingly. Some seem to have done it through a near-death experience. They've experienced as what they understand to be meeting God or Jesus or the right prophet or teacher or even the right relative who was always loving and kind in life to you, who's already passed over, if you like, died. And the effect on them has been fantastic. They turn their life around. Others, it's not through a near-death experience at all. It's a different sort of death where suddenly they realize they've changed. Something's happened in their life. They suddenly see things differently. And it's a whole new life, whole new ball game. Something wonderful. Then again, there's certainly people who have claimed that it's quite gradual, over many years. And in some ways we can all see that any or some of these can be appropriate to your life. Taste and see. Bless you. Thank you, Heavenly Dad.